It's 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. Well, at least it is EST, and that means it must be time for Comic Industry Live. Comic Industry Insiders Live. Excuse me. My name is Atom Freeman. I am the host of Comic Industry Insiders Live, and whatever. Man, this is going to be one of those weeks. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm going to bring in Brian, and this is one of those weeks where we're both. Our day jobs are really doing their best to completely snow us under, but we're here, aren't we, Brian?
Yeah,
we made it.
Yeah, this has been a week, buddy. This has been a week. I feel like we keep saying that. This is a week. Wow.
I mean, it's been a week, of drama for the comics industry, which we're going to get into. Yeah. But it's also been a week of really, dramatic, good and challenging shifts for both of our companies. Brian, my friend Brian Garside here, runs Managed Comics along with a really wonderful marketing company called North IQ, and is just a minch all around. So does a lot for a lot of people. I run Prana Direct Market Solutions, and we work with a lot of different publishing clients. We had our first big FOC for our friends at Recca Comics that came in yesterday, and that was big news for us on behind the scenes. So there's been a lot going on. Now we're going to get into a lot of it, but if you are watching and you have not liked, subscribed, and hit the alert button, hey, please do that. But before maybe and after, we'd love to hear from you. What do you think is the biggest story of this week for comics industry? What are you looking for help with? What are you, just honestly, just tell us anything. We need to know you're out there. We're not throwing this into the void. Hey, Jamie Coville, how are you doing? It is a lot of news, especially from this morning.
Yeah.
Man.
Wait, there was more stuff this morning? You may actually know more stuff than me right now. Oh, no. I'm like out of the loop. I sent you an email at 4 a.m. last night because things had broken last night after everybody else normally was in sleep.
Yes, exactly. It was, I don't, this is going to be a day-to-day, week-to-week endeavor. I think it makes a good time for doing a live show. I did last night. I did a comics experience, did a live show that you had to register for to watch. It was me and the host, Gamal Hennessy, and I'm about to embarrass myself by not remembering everybody else on the panel. Andy Schmidt from Boom Studios, Moni Barrett from Library something. I can't remember where she's from. Oh, shoot. Never mind. I'm not going to bother with everybody else. A panel of experts. We were there to talk about the comics industry and the future of distribution and what, small press can do inside of this world. And we were legitimately we're just commenting on what is happening at the time. Like up until now, we know it's going to shift tomorrow. So giving anybody advice that's not, stay alert and build an audience, build an interaction with your audience, build connection with people. That's really the number one thing we told people. But it's this constantly shifting landscape, which makes it interesting. It definitely makes it a lot more fun to do a live show once a week, but it is also really, really challenging.
Yeah, and Kyle wants us to have stuff ready for him a week in advance, and we're like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but things changed today, bud. Not for nothing, Kyle. We want to get stuff out.
I just want to be able to market your show so that more people know that they can come here and watch us fly by the seat of our pants. Okay.
Why don't you tell them
consider this your first heads up. Next week we're going to be talking. We're going to have a panel of comics retailers, and we're going to be talking about good news. The focus next week, unless there is some huge shift, in which case we're going to have to talk about some real problems. Next week, we're going to be talking about good news. We're going to be talking about the aftermath of Free Comic Book Day, which is this weekend. If you're not already have plans to go to your local comic shop this Saturday, please, first Saturday in May, it's a Free Comic Book Day. Even this year, Free Comic Book Day. We're also going to be talking about the quarterly FCR results. Actually, we're going to talk about the first, I guess, what would be the first third of the year. We're going to be able to talk about the first third of the year for that. And we have some reporting from other retailers to talk about their first quarter results being so huge. Kickstarters are lit on fire right now for the publishing side. And just generally retailers that we're talking to, despite the rest of the world being on fire, are like incredibly excited to be selling comics.
Yeah. No, it's a good time. Like even my own comic shop, which just started in January, we're seeing a bounce of numbers even from January to this month. This month it's really good. But yeah, my bills are getting out of control.
Well, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Yeah.
No, there's very precious little of that right now. I'll tell you what. Hey, we want to know how. So today we're going to talk a lot about the diamond situation. We want to know from you guys, the retailers and the customers and the publishers, like how is that impacting you? So let us know in the comments, and we'll definitely feature your comments up here.
Absolutely. We would love this. The part of the reason to do a live show is the interaction. We love hearing your comments and your questions as we go along. So please feel free to jump in at any time. So, Brian, what the hell's going on, man?
Oh, dude, so much stuff. Like so much. So yeah, this week we're going to talk about the Diamond Saga, the latest in the bankruptcy drama. Absolutely nuts. By the way, on top of all this stuff, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but last night we had an election in Canada, and we have a new prime minister who's our last prime minister, but he was not the last prime minister. But anyway, yeah, so like stuff is happening in the world too, on top of comics. It's crazy.
I try not to think too much about what happens in the world that's not completely connected to comics. It's the only way I can keep myself sane. Except that I know that our current president hates whoever got elected, which is good enough for me. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, he hates everyone, so that's kind of. So the big story this week, we are going to talk about the diamond situation. We're going to talk the timeline. We're going to talk about some of the latest news that as early as this morning, which I am unaware of. So I'm looking forward to learning about that. And we're also going to talk about kind of what the next kind of stuff is for the week. So with diamonds. So we'll find out. And then we'll revisit that little sneak peek at the end. So should we dive right into it?
Well, let's jump in. And I should say, like, all of this is in service of the work that both Brian and I do for our respective companies. I spoke to him a little bit about Brian and Managed Comics. And by the way, I don't know why we never have a slide for Managed Comics in here, but we absolutely should. But we do a weekly newsletter. My company, Prana Direct Market Solutions, we do something called the Friday Bullet, where we run down the week's happenings in the comics industry. We also report on the sales data that we're getting from stores like the Managed Comic sites. We essentially use this as an opportunity to give you a roundup of what the week looks like. So if you are interested in the Prana Bullet newsletter, please sign up at pranadm.com. And know that you'll get the very next one. And if you've been waiting on them, and there's one guy who's always in my inbox, I will tell you the last couple of weeks I haven't been able to get it done. This week though, I have somebody shaming me with a legitimate. She's going to do the shame bell and walk behind me if I don't get it done. So you will this Friday be getting the Prana Bullet. Please go ahead and sign up.
I love it. Man, that's awesome. I love the shame bell. Anytime we can get the shame bell. That's awesome.
It is a meme that we use often. Usually when somebody tries to use a time and does not use the actual time zone, they often get, that's when we give people the shame bell, because, we're working all over the country. So
no doubt.
What?
Before we get into this, we are going to do, this is breaking news, Adam. You are not even aware of it. Producer Kyle, are you around? Can you pop your voice in here for a second?
What's up?
Disembodied voice. We are going to do a giveaway right now, Adam.
We are
right now. Yeah, it's the world is crazy, Adam.
Listen.
And we need some fun things. So we are going to do a giveaway. Producer Kyle is giving out a Comics Pro exclusive. We're taking everyone down with us. #1, free shipping inside the USA. And I have decided to match that. And I will give my We're Taking Everything Down with Us #1 Comics Pro exclusive away to anyone in Canada. So if you're from Canada, I will ship anywhere in Canada free. Producer Kyle will ship anywhere in the United States for free.
Right on.
Our hashtag is going to be, let's make it win with CII live. How's that? Does that sound fun?
Better than the hashtag I had come up with, which was Chicken Little. So
win with CII live. All right. So
Kyle's
Kyle's going to take care of that.
You can tell we're making this up as we go because it's not on the screen right now.
Oh, it's 100% as I don't even know how to do that right now to make it go on the screen.
All right. I will get that taken care of. But all you guys have to do is comment that right now, and you will get entered in the giveaway. So
right now, that means Christina's winning, right?
Right.
So, yeah, that's right. That's right.
At the end of the show, we'll pull up the spinner wheel. We'll spin it twice, and we'll give the books away.
Awesome. Look at this. Awesome. You know what? I'm going to give you all a little behind the scenes. Brian and I both had like huge things blow up for us right before we came on, and we're usually the show is really buttoned up, and Brian does an amazing job with the graphics, and he did it as well this week. But we're both just like, yeah, sure, let's just do it. This is the week to try shit. Let's go. All right.
Well, let's get to our big story. What is going on with Diamond Comics distribution right now? I almost called it Kyle's Comics distribution right now.
Hey,
here's our big timeline. How do I make it just the slide? I don't remember how to do that one. Just want to see the slide. I don't want to see our faces.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. That's the one. So this is the timeline of what happened and when it happened. So way back in April 10th, if we go way back to January, is when I think it was like January 24th, I want to say, is when Diamond officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. And what that is it allows them time to reorganize themselves. It gives them some bridge financing. It's usually used to either reorganize your organization or sell off assets so that you can pay down your debts. And it's intended to kind of keep you going, right? Like you need to be a viable business as that goes. So we've kind of fast forward through a whole bunch of stuff that includes auctions and maneuvering behind the scenes, and probably the most active Comics Pro I've ever seen in my life, where there were so many meetings, and there were so many. Adam and I were both involved in a bunch of secret meetings that at times we couldn't even tell each other that we were in the same secret meeting.
That's
and
right.
It was like, oh, hey, you're here. Cool. Okay. Yeah, we're not allowed to tell each other about these things. So yeah, it was at the point where I couldn't tell anybody anything because I didn't know what was secret and what wasn't anymore. There was so much stuff going on. So yeah, that was great, and that was kind of leading up to the big auction, which took place on, I believe it is. Oh, Kyle, I'm so bad at this. How do I make that part go away? Just make our faces go away, Kyle. Kyle's not here. Our faces won't go.
Oh, there they are.
There we go. So that leads us to April 10th, where Alliance Entertainment approved the purchase was approved to purchase Diamond. So the bankruptcy court approved Alliance acquiring their assets. Now, there's some interesting stuff here before we get to that, because just before that, if you'll recall from our last time on Comic Industry Insiders Live, the Diamond Edition, we talked about the fact that Universal and Ad Populum had kind of come in after the fact and were suddenly the preferred bidders. And then Alliance sued them and said, no, we want to be the preferred bidder. We already, Ad Populum wasn't even part of this negotiation. We should be the preferred bidder. And then the court sided with Alliance. So that's how we get to April 10th. So on April 10th, we were on here and we said, congratulations, Alliance Entertainment, you own Diamond. May God have mercy on your soul. Django thought our meetings were secret.
That's right. Yeah, and we thought that the Alliance was taking, it seemed clear cut. There was a judge said he won. That's what it was. Then there's seemingly well, there was several different motions that happened. So there was a motion filed to convert that Chapter 11. Oh, let's actually take that back. April 24th, last week, since the last time we were on here, Alliance announces that they are pulling their acquisition. They're no longer going to be doing this. They are essentially, they just said, you know what? Never mind. Now, this it was a shock to everybody because they fought so hard to get it. So there was much speculation. Many people spoken to, we talked to, I know become now seemingly this round table of comics journalists all saying, what do you know? What do you know? And nearly everybody thought, well, maybe they got in there and they finally got to see the details. And that's what they found that made them finally pull the plug. Could be. That seemed the most likely to me. It seemed most likely that they finally were able to do the kind of due diligence that you normally would see before you go in for a bid like that. And that seems to be what happened. Just after that, if you want to go back to the timeline
Sure.
real quick. So just after that, there is 4 days later, there's a motion filed to convert the Chapter 11 bankruptcy to a Chapter 7. Now, this is a big deal, right? Chapter 11 bankruptcy, again, we didn't do the preamble, which is neither Brian or I are lawyers.
Oh God, yeah. I forgot to add that.
Yes, let's do the disclaimer. Like most of everything that you're going to hear right now, complete and utter bullshit. Like there's very little of this that is fact. There's absolutely none of this that you should base any of your own life decisions on. This is, let's just say, for entertainment purposes only, right?
Well, I mean, to be fair, we have consumed all of the news that's out there. So we're taking all this from legitimate news sources. A lot of this comes from ICV2, quite a bit from Graphic Policy. Right. There's a lot of stuff from The Beat and, even Bleeding Cool, because dude manages to break everything before anybody else does. So we've taken this all from the various sources. There's also, like, I read a bunch of legal documents yesterday. I also found out yesterday, my buddy is best friends with a guy that owns Banduran Press who declared, I don't know if they declared bankruptcy or wound down a couple of years ago, but they've not been a viable business for 5 years. And Diamond owes them $625. So that is on that listing of creditors, right? AIT Planet Lair, I think they owe him $65. And so he's on the list of creditors. So there's a list of every single creditor out there, and you can see everybody that Diamond owes money to. And it's like hundreds of companies.
That's which is not surprising. I mean, I'm not surprised to hear that they would never settle up that, last little bit that Larry is owed. That reminds me, at some point I got to interview Larry. He is an exceptional. He's a lot of fun. He ruffles a lot of feathers, but yeah, I really like Larry. If you're out there, Larry, at some point, man, we got to do this. All right,
absolutely. So all of that is to say, our disclaimer is we are just clowns. Don't sue us. Nothing that we say should be held in a court of law.
And we're not even trying to get the chairman of whatever company is involved on this. No. We don't. It's all right. That's not what we're trying to do here. Okay. So where were we in our timeline?
I think we were back. Let's see. I think we were
Chapter 11 converts to Chapter 7.
So we were kind of explaining the difference between Chapter 11 and 7.
Yes.
I believe that 7 is kind of a winding down of the business. It's the end. And then the other option is, it starts with a D, leaving bankruptcy protection. What is that called? Dismissal? Discharge of bankruptcy protection. That is a terrible thing because you have none of the protections that bankruptcy protection gives you. So you are just out on your own. So I believe it's I should have known this one. It's the state supervisor for bankruptcies, or district, I think, that has declared this, because he's saying, actually I have it here, the trustee in Diamond Comics Chapter 11 bankruptcy case has filed a motion asking the judge to convert the case to either a Chapter 7 liquidation or to dismiss the Chapter 11 case Trigger for the filing was Diamond's failure to submit required monthly operating reports to the court for January, February, or March, which, by the way, is the entire period. So they've not submitted any monthly operating reports up to this point.
Now, this is where this gets a little confusing to me, because I will say I've done a little bit of research here. You do such a great job of the research on these, but I've done a little bit of research here, and it's not clear to me, not being a bankruptcy lawyer, just a schmo on the internet. Please don't sue. But it's not clear to me whose responsibility it is to file
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the reporting I've seen says that it is the company that is filing for bankruptcy. It is their job to file those reports. And some of the reporting I'm seeing says it's the trustee who is assigned by the bank to that. So the question, there's really a big question mark as to who it was supposed to file this. I'm assuming that it wasn't the trustee, since seemingly what the reporting we're seeing is that the trustee is saying it's time to go to Chapter 7 because nobody filed it. I don't know that he'd be, reporting himself or not doing his homework. Hard to say.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's kind of where we are right now.
But wait,
and then
there's more.
Yesterday, more fun. Actually, 4 a.m. this morning.
4 a.m. this morning. Alliance Entertainment is once again a second lawsuit, essentially claiming fraud and deception, seeking the $8.5 million plus accrued interest that they and further damages. The 8.5 is the good faith amount that they deposited in order to be accepted as the winning bid. So it's in there, and then inside of that story, we find out that one of the assets that Alliance thought they were buying was this deal with Wizards of the Coast, the makers of Magic the Gathering and other games. But for the purposes of this, let's just talk about Magic the Gathering. And once the file that was the document that outlined what that deal was redacted in the original reporting that they saw winning the bid. And then once they got the bid, they found out that not only was that contract up, but it had been had continually been rebooted, but is not being rebooted again. So essentially they are now saying Alliance is out because they're not getting the Wizards of the Coast contract, and because they were misled into believing that was an asset that they were buying.
Yeah, defendants kept this a closely guarded secret from plaintiff, all other bidders, and other bidders in the auction and the court. For example, defendants redacted the termination dates, and it only came to a sliver of truth came to light on April 12th, only after execution of the APA, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can only imagine what it must feel like to be a Diamond employee who is not at the very top. They're going through the same thing that we're going through. They're hearing about this as it is going live to the media. I can only imagine what it must feel like for them. I can only imagine what it must feel like for those publishers who are still with Nick Barucci. Absolutely. Yep. He reminds us, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button, hit this like,
smash that like,
and make sure that you hit the alert button too. Oh, and if you haven't already, win with CII Live. Let's go. But yeah, as Mr. Go Lucky here says, that can only imagine what it must feel like for them who are waiting on this money, need this money to stay alive. Not that I'm saying that's the case of Dynamite, but waiting on the money to continue business, waiting on understanding where their distribution is going, how they're getting to comic shops. I can just only imagine what it's like to wake up and feel this. And so I feel for them every time. For many of us, it starts to feel a little bit like, sports. Right. It's what interesting thing is happening at Diamond today, but there are lots of lives that are really being affected by this on a day-to-day basis. And our hearts go out to you.
I got to say, as a relatively new retailer who's back in the game after, a decade of not being in the game. When I took my company back over, my partner was very, very Diamond heavy. And fast forward 3 months, and I showed you one of my invoices last night. I'm getting like, what was there, like 15 books on there?
Yeah.
No, there was 40, wasn't it 41 books? And of those 41, 18 of them were damaged or something ridiculous, like damaged or missing. A full quarter of my order this week was damaged or missing from Diamond. And they've gotten worse because I think they're probably not getting the best staff right now. So yeah, it's heartbreaking, and it's making things more difficult for everybody at every single part of the chain, right? And that sucks.
But the good news is, I want to say, is that as we're going to talk about next week, there's a lot of good news in our industry. Sales are up. Consumer interest is very high, right? We're seeing sales that we haven't seen for a very, very long time. And the stores that are, not dependent on Diamond are doing very well. So I think that there's a lot here to say. There's a reason to fight for this. There's a reason to continue this drama. But also it'd be good to have this behind us and have all of this settled,
For sure. And I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions about where we're going to get certain things from. Like, I don't know of another place to get some of those cool, quirky art books, right? I don't know of another place to get some of the weird imported toys and things like that. And then there's the whole other side of this that we haven't even talked about, which is the tariff side. And what's going on with some of that stuff, where you're seeing board games and things that are they're being built 18 to 24 months in advance. And if tariffs go to 125 or 140 by the time they get in here, you're looking at a 1.5%, 1.5 times increase in the cost of something to land it. So all those things, like we haven't seen the tariff side of the impact of all this stuff, and we won't for probably a couple more months, but it's going to hit us.
And we also won't see the projects that are being held behind. We saw this in comics many like 3 years ago, just as we were all coming out of that sort of COVID high where sales were starting to drop pretty hard. We saw publishers holding back big projects, right? We saw creators who had been working on projects that were ready to announce saying, all right, I'm gonna wait, which is part of why we're seeing such a big win in our sales right now, is that those projects are coming out and getting people excited, right? So that is something that is, I don't know, there's no way that we can know that ahead of time, what that looks like, what it is that we're just not even seeing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like this comment. Watching this happen is like watching WrestleMania 41. You could see how it's going to go down. You expect Roman Reigns to finally get payback on Seth, but nope, Paul Heyman nutshot. That's exactly how it feels. Paul Heyman nutshot. I love it.
I don't know. Listen, when all of this started going into the auction, I think, Brian, you and I both really thought that it was a foregone conclusion that Universal was going to go in and take it. That it was going to be a really easy transition. It was going to be difficult as they learned to distribute comics through those alliance warehouses, not the alliance, the other alliance. We thought that was going to be a challenge, but we had no idea that this drama was going to just take over our lives here for a little while. So yeah. So now what?
Well, that's the question, right? Like, what is the fallout to this, really? Like, what do we do? As there's three different real actors that we've got to think about: retailers, publishers, and fans, right? Like, those are the three primary people that are groups of people that are most kind of affected by this. So,
and as publishers, you can also just say vendors, I think, right? Because there are plenty of vendors who are not publishers these days. There's a lot of bags and boards, and there's a lot of ancillary products that are still they're still inside the comics industry, right?
100%. I mean, even to the point of, like, vendors who are supplying technology and things like that, right? Like
Like
there's
yourself, right?
yeah, absolutely. Amazon, I saw, was AWS is one of their creditors on that list. So
Poor Amazon.
if we start at the retailer level, like what do you think that retailers should be thinking about right now?
Well, I mean, we've been. I think part of one of the biggest messages of this project of ours, this show, has been be prepared. Have your go bag ready.
Yeah.
Be understanding that tomorrow you may wake up and Diamond will be gone. Right?
Yeah.
That is something you need to be 100% prepared for. What does your POS system look like? What does your product flow look like? What do your weekly bills look like? How are you going to handle it if suddenly somebody comes to you and says, "Yo, where's my money?" This is a really wonderful. There's a site, I don't know if you know about it, managedcomics.com. They have on their blog a digital go bag of all the things that you need to be prepared for if and when the big shift happens.
Yeah, 100%. Like this is, I liberally stole this from Joe Murray. I also posted it on the comment standard, but I took his words and like, this is something I have preached to everybody. And even people that are using Managed Comics, I'm like, you guys still need to do all this stuff. Even like make sure you have backups of things because you never know what's going to happen, right? Like you just never know. So have backups of stuff, know your numbers, track your orders, secure your subscription data. If you're relying on Comic Suite or Pullbox, make sure you have copies of that stuff. Joe mentioned this one, print physical critical documents, like have hard copies or digital PDFs of not just your customer orders, subscriptions, and also where you're getting stuff from and what those orders look like. Like make sure that you have an idea of what's coming 3 months to 6 months. Because some of the stuff we order through these distributors, we're ordering 6 months, 8 months in advance, right? So make sure you know what that stuff is. Because if they go away, it could be very fast. And even if they transition, there's no telling whether or not that data goes with them, right? To the next vendor or buyer, especially if we get into a chapter 7 and they start liquidating pieces. You could see a lot of kind of critical infrastructure just disappear. Diversify your suppliers, plan for exclusive titles. So we were seeing a bunch of exclusives with Lunar. Financial cushion. So sell the crap that's not selling for whatever you can get it because cash is better than stuff in this situation. Streamline your inventory. So there are going to be some big sales that come down. Have that cash position so that you can take advantage of those things. Big one, strengthen your
I want to double tap on that real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Something happened during COVID. I remember really early on, I was asked to come and address the Comics Pro did a what should we be looking at? And we at Bad Idea, because we were hearing a lot from Sony because of being involved in the Bloodshot movie, we knew how bad this was going to be. And so we were saying, this is going to get hard. This is going to get real hard for a while. And I told everybody, just stack up your cash. Do yourself a favor. Now's not the time for capital expenses, investment. Now is not the time for buying new machinery. Now is time for stacking your cash and seeing what happens. And as a result, the stores that did listen to that and were prepared, what they saw was this massive opportunity of all these people who are now stuck at home. And they were doing one of two things. They were either buying up the things to fill in their collection. They were buying supplies to fill that, to finally bag and board all their books.
Yeah.
But the big thing that happened that was a huge boon for the stores was people bringing their collections in. They finally were clearing their, garage out, and they brought that collection in, and they were able to buy those collections because of that.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Like even my own situation, I was planning on opening brick and mortar this year, but I'm holding off until we figure out exactly what's going on. Cause just, you don't know what your costs of things are going to be. You don't know where you're going to get them. You don't know what the terms with your new distributors are going to be. I'm super happy with what I have with Lunar and Penguin Random House, but there's some stuff that Diamond has, like there's a bunch of manga and things that I don't even know where I'm going to get it right now. So yeah, we got to really work on this stuff. One of the big points that Joe made was to lean on that retailer network. So groups like Comics Pro, forums, retailer groups on Facebook. I try and avoid them like the plague, but some of you may have better luck than me. And then just stay agile, like be ready to shift gears at a moment's notice. The sands are shifting. The person who can jump the fastest is going to survive the best. So yeah, I think that's all really, really good advice still.
Let's make sure that link goes into the comments, because I'd love to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to take a look at that later. So yeah, so that's retailers. Publishers, I want to go in and actually give you, I think there's a comment back here that I want to go back to. Symphonic Verses, Nocturnes Romance. Diamond rejected my series, so I started my own label. And without crowdfunding or mainstream distribution, I sold nearly 11,000 physical copies without crowdfunding or mainstream distribution. Right. So what they're saying here is that, there is an opportunity right now. As far as I understand it, Diamond has not taken in really anybody new in at least 6 months, and it could be a year. And that they knew what was coming, right? They knew what was. They didn't want to bring anybody in without knowing that that's going to be that they're not going to be able to provide that service for them. Now, if you're a publisher and you are trying to reach the direct market, what do you do? If you're a first-time publisher and you're trying to go into comic shops on a large scale, there used to be very simple. You went to Diamond and they accepted almost everybody, and you were in the catalog, and you were at least you had access to those stores. That is no longer the way, right? It's just not there right now. The answer is to do essentially what I think what this person is talking about is you are responsible for creating your audience and then bringing that audience to these different places. And that there are plenty of people who are going to tell you stories about having created an entire publishing company out of the direct market, or right now it's out of Kickstarter. How do you start a Kickstarter and then you build and you build and you build. That's really, really, really difficult. You need to be building an audience first, right? You need to be creating that outreach and that platform in every possible way before you take them to Kickstarter, before you take them to distribution. It shouldn't even be, I make this joke all the time, but it shouldn't be called Kickstarter. It should be called Kick Ender. It should be the thing you do after you build the audience, because 100%. It's an opportunity for them to come together. There's this really fantastic interview with Brandon Sanderson, the $1 billion fantasy author right now, with Tim Ferriss that I'm not even all the way through it, and there's so many gems in there. But he talks about how even with his massive success on Kickstarter, that's only 1/10 of his sales, because he's continually building the audience everywhere he goes. And so as a result, he can take that audience to all of these other places. As our friend here, and again, I'm looking forward to seeing this book, says, into the direct market, into the local comic shops, even at Walmart, right? Walmart right now is starting this platform that people can list books on their Walmart.com, brand new web sales platform. All this to say, you need to be going in all of those directions at once, because it's up to you to build your audience. Nobody's going to be able to do that for you. We mentioned Larry Young earlier in the show, and he had a book out. I want to say it was called Come In Alone. It was basically a collection of all these articles that he had done, columns that he had done about the comics industry. I remember very succinctly one of them talking about how you don't need to have your publishing budget ahead of time in order to produce a comic. He was saying, as long as you have the art done, you're going to, pay to get the art done. Yes, pay to get decent page rates. But then, like, you solicit it, then Diamond sends you a PO. You send that PO to the printer. You have 30-day terms with the printer. And so now when Diamond sends you the money, you get to pay the printer, and whatever profit is yours. It doesn't work that way anymore. For one thing, the printers won't give you terms anymore. Just isn't there. You got to be paying up front. So all of those things, those tools that we used to have are no longer here, but we have other tools now. You can build your audience in so many different ways. True facts. That's what it was.
There you go.
Come in alone. Who was that? Oh, that was Warren
Warren Ellis's book.
Yeah. True facts.
Yeah.
That's right. Anyway, so all of this to say, there's still a really wonderful time for comics publishers to enter this market because there's so much going on in the comic shops. The comic shops are still a wonderful place to build a brand. Right now, they're a really difficult place if you're just starting out to make any money. So you are going to be investing. Be prepared for that. But then everything else that we said, it also holds true. You are responsible for running that business. Make sure that you have all of your tools in place at all times. Don't get caught off guard because there's a whole lot coming. It still hasn't come around the bend. We're still going to get surprised next week. Just don't know how.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
What would you say fans should be doing, Brian? I think we've covered.
Yeah, I mean, so for fans, they're like, it's so interesting because I have a few customers who are very, very particular about some very specific things. Like I got one dude that buys every alley-oop trade that has ever been made. And he, like, every month he's like, hey, do you know what the status on this trade is? And I'm like, no, I literally don't, but I will find out. But those are things that we're only getting through Diamond. So understand that your retailers are looking for solutions for you. We're motivated to keep you happy because I want to keep you as a customer. And if I can't solve your problem, somebody else will be able to. So obviously I'm going to try to be a bit patient with us because this is not easy. This stuff is hard. But, by all means, let us know the things that you're looking for and keep us in the loop on those things. The worst possible scenario is that you decide to do all your purchasing through Amazon instead of through your local comic shop.
100%.
And I will tell you right now that your local comic shop is employing a bunch of kids to stay working, that is keeping them off the streets, that's keeping them from that. Also, the local guitar store is benefiting greatly from some of those kids getting money from the comic store. So yeah, support your LCS because the money is staying in your community. When you're buying stuff on Amazon, yes, it may be $5 cheaper, but you're losing all those pieces of community support. Be prepared for some price changes. Price changes are most likely going to go up from not just necessarily distribution changes, but also, impacted by tariffs and things that are coming up. We're going to start seeing those numbers, and we'll do a whole episode on tariffs in the future. We haven't seen the full impact of that stuff. And right now you're starting to see it in the United States, from what I understand, that some of your Walmarts and things are starting to get low on certain things. You probably have a month until a lot of that stuff disappears out of the chain. Games and stuff are kind of similar, that this stuff was all created 18 to 24 months ago, and now it's going through that production cycle and production change. And that game that was $70 may be $140 now. So keep that stuff in mind. Your retailer isn't gouging you. This is just the new realities. And expect some shipping delays for stuff that is going to have to move from one distributor to another. We saw this when things moved from DC, from Diamond to DC, Diamond to Lunar and UCS. And that was a fairly, it was a fairly well planned out switch. This may not be as well planned out, depending on how quickly this happens.
And I would say even more so, we saw this with the switch from Diamond to Lunar for Image Comics, right?
Yes.
I've heard a little bit behind the scenes. It's not a story for me to tell, but I've heard a little bit of behind the scenes of what the challenges were there. And not only did that disrupt Image comic sales, it was partially responsible for the disruption in lunar shipping. They loved being
100%.
early, and suddenly
Yeah.
they were running late because of that, like just the logistics of bringing that much product underneath a new roof. So
For sure. Yeah.
there are going to be some slowdowns. There are going to be plenty of problems nobody ever heard of. I mean, we all complained about Diamond, but man, that train ran on time every week like clockwork for decades. And now what we're seeing is that train schedule is basically thrown out the back window. And, you know, you get the books, you might get them on Monday, you might get them on Tuesday, you might get them on Thursday, you know? So be understanding, work with your comics retailer. And yes, absolutely, pre-order and subscribe. Go to your local comic shop to pick up the things that could be delivered to your home. Why? Because they are worth it. They are worth protecting. They are a resource that we need to survive, and it's just going to get harder on them. So yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think the big picture is here? Like, do you think, and this is just pure speculation, lawyers, we are speculating. This is the speculation period of the show. What do you realistically, because you have been much more positive about Diamond's future than I have been. I think I've been looking at it and saying, I think there's a Thanos moment, right, where this is inevitable. And you've been saying to me, I wouldn't count them out yet. With the stuff that's happened in the last week, what do you think?
Yeah, I think as I said to you this morning, I think that we have seen the turn card, but we haven't yet seen the river card.
The river, yeah.
Right? If you're playing poker, if you're playing Texas Hold'em, you get 3 cards. You get 2 cards in your hand. 3 cards hit the table. Then there's another card called the turn, and then there's the last card called the river. And it's called that because if you haven't made your hand by the time that last card comes out, you might as well just jump in the river.
Right.
We haven't seen the river card, right? We don't know if our friend Angelo from Universal is going to make this like happen, right? I know that it's obvious to me that he's still working.
For sure.
We don't know what the plan is post this, right? It's entirely possible that Diamond goes through chapter 7 and all those assets go up for grabs and the whole thing gets lit on fire. And as a result of that, fires are what make healthy forests.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but
as a result of that, Angelo and Universal, they go in and rebuild what Diamond had in place. That's entirely
look at all of those logos at the top. Like, it is stunning the number of, and when you think about the sheer humanity of that, like there are a lot of people, right? Like at the end of the day, it's comical books and that's adorable. But it's also, I lost us. I did it again. I'm so bad at my job. It's also human beings, and like what's gonna happen to those human beings, right? Like that's something that gets lost in a lot of this stuff. It seems like it's kind of chess pieces moving around a board, but there's a bunch of folks that are involved in this.
They are, but they're also chess pieces, right? They are people, but they are also assets, and each one of those people it has a lot of institutional knowledge. Earlier in the chat, we saw our friend Nick Barucci, owns Dynamite. He has this incredible staff of people that have come from outside companies and learned how those systems, and even were integral in building those systems that they're now using. So I think that all of those people are the assets.
Yeah.
Now, will they make the same salaries they were making at Diamond? Many of them, the answer is no. But I think many of them that might even end up getting better jobs as a result.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
So listen, my own company, Prana Direct Market Solutions, we rely very much on a person named Megan Marston. She's an incredible asset for our company, and she's often watching this. And if you are watching this, Megan, this is your bonus for the year. But she came out of Diamond, and as a result, like, she knows how all of the mechanics work. The reason that I get hired for anything is that I've always been curious about how operationally things work. So as a result of that, like, you know, if this, like I keep saying, if this had happened 3 years ago, there she is. If this had happened 3 years ago, yes, we'd be fucked.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
if,
yeah.
If Diamond of even 2022, but let's say Diamond of 2020, right? Just pre-COVID. Let's say they go bankrupt. There's no comics industry ever. There's a single point of failure. So now there are no single points of failure, right? There's not even a single point of failure in your line, right? There's not even a single point of failure for comics shop POS systems.
Yep, it's true.
Any one of you goes down, somebody's going to fill that void tomorrow. And I think that as a result of that, I'm still very bullish on the comics industry, period. As Dan Shaheen points out in the comments, yes, it is, a harder time. It's a much more difficult time to run a comic shop now, logistically speaking. But 15 years ago, you didn't have people going to their local Comic-Con every year like clockwork. You didn't have people who were interested in comics and picking them up once a year as gifts. You didn't have a lot of the things that we have today. So I would say that yes, many things are harder logistically. Many things are easier logistically because of services like yours.
I'm going to push back pretty hard on that because having been involved in the industry in the 80s and when we had, 1,000 distributors back then. So I started in like 89 and then I left in like 93, 94. So I was there for the whole transition through Diamond. Things were easier to order, but the actual management of stuff was not any easier. It was way harder. There was less of it, so it wasn't that hard. But today, like, I do my FOCs in literally 30 minutes. I do my initial orders. I did initial orders last week, and I did them in like probably 20 minutes because I don't care that much about them. They're just placeholders because they get replaced with FOCs. But each individual company, I'm doing an hour and a half of FOCs. I used to do I remember my Sundays were just orders back in the day. So I'm going to push back on that because the systems I think are better.
Yeah.
The data has become better because we've worked our asses off on that data. When you say 3 years ago, we would have been in a much different place. Dude, if we didn't have the data structures that we have now, this would be a nightmare. Like, it would be just an absolute nightmare. And so bringing on new distributors for me is relatively easy. Like, I can bring on a new distributor in a few hours. The first time that we brought on Lunar, it was literally 3 months of work to make our system use multiple distributors. And then bringing on PRH was like hours of work. And now we're down to like, okay, we got to format our input files a different way. And we had to add a new publisher. Okay, we have tools to do all that stuff. So I think it's a lot easier from a technology standpoint. It is a bit harder to I showed you the picture of the packages I opened yesterday, right?
Sure.
I won't mention which distributor, but I got 212 individual comics and they came in 8 boxes, which were sometimes Russian nesting dolls of boxes within boxes. That just the sheer like waste and extra stuff is way higher than it was with Diamond. But my damages through those other companies are way lower than they were ever with Diamond. So, it's give and take.
Yeah, but I do think I love that this Dan, who I know actually had a precursor show to our
love Dan. Yeah. I wouldn't be doing this without Dan, honestly.
And he's a software developer himself, and that he's and actually developed a POS system back in the day.
And he's working on like an open source thing that he's working on right now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, he does point it out, right? That yes, it is harder in many ways, but it would be impossible without POS. But why would you do it without POS, right? You just don't. So, all right, excellent. So I feel like we've covered what happened. I feel like we've covered what to look out for. What are we doing next week? As I remember, because we're starting to come in on the end of this, and I want to make sure that we have time for a new spinning wheel thing. By the way, if you haven't already done the hashtag, you can see it going at Win with. It looks like Win with Clive, Win with CII Live. If you haven't already done that, please do enter that into the chat. And
I didn't update this with your latest one.
Do what?
I didn't update this with your latest.
No. This actually might be my latest one. I'm
get it
sad.
out. Shame.
It's been. I know. Hit the shame bell. Listen. It's been a crazy couple weeks. All right. Anyway, we're a small company, but we do this once a week when we're working. The Piranha Bullet, this is an email that we put into your inbox every Friday. It's just a rundown of all the things that are happening inside of the comic book industry so that you can go into the weekend knowing that you at least know what the most up-to-date thing is before the whole thing lights on fire again on Monday. To get signed up, piranhadm.com, and you'll go ahead and hit the subscribe button and fill out the little form, and we'll get you into the very next one, which I swear will be on Friday. All right.
I'm going to give you one last little thing. So on Thursday, May 1st. How is it May, Adam?
I know.
How is that?
Man.
That can't be. My calendar's got to be off.
No, you're
Thursday,
right.
May 1st at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we are doing our latest Managed Comics webinar. We call it The Future of Managed Comics. You can find it by going to managedcomics.com. And I'm going to pull it up here. And you will see, you go to managedcomics.com. Oh, I got to remove that one.
There we go.
You go right down here. You're going to see Meanwhile at Managed Comics. So this is our first Meanwhile of 2025 somehow. And we're going to talk about the future of Managed Comics. We're going to discuss our new multi-location feature that we are literally in QA with, so I can actually run through it. You can ask questions about Managed Comics, how we handle multi-distributors and more. Learn how Managed Comics can grow your store. And I keep saying that if we don't bring you an extra $200 in your first month, then we're doing something wrong. Because I know for a fact that my store, moving from even Classic to 2.0, I made well more than $200 extra in my first month. So
amazing.
Yeah, well, it really does pay for itself.
Once again, just got to go back to Dan Shaheen. It's impossible without a good POS.
It's impossible. Yeah. Okay. I can't even imagine without one.
What is that? Let's do next week real quick, and then we can do the spinning wheel thing. You want to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pull that up, that slide. So next time we've talked about all of the horrors of the comics industry this week. Next week, we're going to focus on the bright side. We're going to focus on it's our happiest week of the year for comics because this Saturday is Free Comic Book Day. So we're going to have a panel of retailers on. If you are a retailer and you're listening to this while you're setting up and you want to be on, you know how to find us. We'd love to have you on. We're going to be talking about Free Comic Book Day and its aftermath, who the winners and losers were of that day. We're going to be talking about the quarterly, not only the quarterly, but the quarterly plus April fan confidence rating results, meaning are fans subscribing? Are they pre-ordering comics? What is their interest? Because that is the precursor to sales. We know that we've locked that in, is that when the FCR goes up, 2 months later, sales in the shops go up. 100% accurate. So let's watch that. And Kickstarters on frickin' fire. I don't know. We've been talking about this. This is it the Transformers one? It's the this transform. Look at this thing, and that's
8 days to go.
What is it in freedom dollars? It's like
it's in 55. No, okay. So sorry, I don't know. Can I do that? Can I convert it? Sorry, this is Canadian dollars. Yeah, it's it looks like 3.22 million American dollars.
Crazy 7,700 backers for this crazy big book. Anyway,
this is so expensive. Like the lowest price is $60. That's for a digital. Okay, the first physical is $150, I think.
Well, listen, let's don't spend this whole time talking about how crazy this is, because it is freaking crazy. Anyway,
but people should get involved in this if they're interested, because it ends in 8 days, which will be, I guess we'll still be on. So yeah, check that one out. That one looks
we'll
cool.
be talking about that. We'll be talking about how comics Kickstarters have crazy performed at the same time that comic shops are crazy performing.
Yeah, 100%.
What does that tell you? So yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about all the good news that we're seeing right now, and those are just a couple of the indicators that we're going to bring a lot more. It's going to be a whole lot of data and a whole lot of us going Transformers. So, Kyle, how do we spin this wheel thing? What is the story here, man?
All right.
Oh, we got 14 entries. Excellent.
Let's do. Yep, Brian already did it. So let's draw the first name.
Let's go.
But oh, look at that! That's so much fun. Oh my gosh. Jamie Coville, Canadian. So this one's on me. I'll ship this one to Jamie.
All right.
Hey, Jamie, reach out to. Actually, do you have a way normally of getting the information?
I will put a link in the comments here momentarily.
Okay,
that
cool.
People can fill out a form, and I will forward you their information.
Awesome.
That's super easy.
Let's draw potentially an American winner.
Well, let's see. But if it ends up being 2 Canadians, I don't know.
I'll just have to ship 2 Canadians.
It'll be obvious that this is somehow rigged by the Canadians.
Oh, Pastor Michael.
Pastor Michael.
Nice.
He came in with some salt, really, too. That was good.
So if you won the giveaway today, you'll fill out the form at bit.ly/KyleJ, and we will get you your prize shipped out.
What is it they're getting?
It is the Comics Pro exclusive that Rosenberg did for We're Taking Everyone Down With Us.
Right on. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us once again on our the continuing unfolding of the executive fire that is the comics industry. We want to thank you also for going to comic shops. Like you show up once a week, when you are there picking up your subscriptions, and God, please pick up your subscriptions. Your comics retailer really wants you to go by and pick up that stack.
This first quarter, I have a short box full of stuff that was not picked up. It breaks my heart. Breaks my heart.
I know, man. Every month your retailer is feeling that trauma that Brian just showed you. So please go and show up and pick up your books. But every time you do that, you make our industry a little bit stronger. You're investing in all of us. You're helping us to create the books that you love. You're helping us to have these shows where we talk about them. Like, legitimately, you are investing in the comics industry, and we want to thank you for doing that, because frankly, Brian and I are not very good at much else than this.
No, I'm terrible. I'm terrible at most things.
Make sure you also go and check out Comic Industry Insiders Live. Today we had an episode drop with Sal from Comic Pop. And we talked about what it takes to run a creator focused kind of channel like that. Please check us out. We talk to people behind the scenes of the comic book industry and try and learn what they know that can help your business or career in comics. That's on Prana DMS or at YouTube and anywhere that your podcasts are sold.
Yeah, just look up Comic Industry Insiders, and you will find it on your favorite podcasting application. Also,
I think there's going to be a new Data Bros, right? Is it?
The most recent one dropped last week. It was all about Toy Boat. So if you're interested in seeing what happens when a convention moves to the sea, the boys talked about that. And then this week, we're actually telling it. The episode is called "Oops, I Shopped Myself," and it's about how I accidentally bought a comic store.
Love that.
So tune into that, databros.com, or just find it Data Bros on any of your podcast applications.
Thank you, Brian. Once again,
thank you, sir.
Pulled this thing together at the very last minute. I'm impressed with ourselves.
Yeah, we're pretty good at this thing. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, producer Kyle, and thank all y'all, especially those of you in the chat. We'll see you next week.